Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today we're taking a look at some Liam Sharp artwork on Death's Head 2, issue number 3 of the miniseries. This is cover dated May 1992, and right away I notice a huge difference in as far as the aesthetic goes of the artwork here as opposed to last issue. If you remember last issue, we had the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards on the cover, and the aesthetic inking wise was much more in line with kind of that Jim Lee, Wildstorm, Scott Williams West Coast look from the early 90s, right? That was pretty popular and a lot of people were aping and cloning. So I feel like maybe, editor wise, someone was, telling Liam Sharp to do that. As far as this issue goes, right away with the cover, you see a huge difference there, I think, already in the aesthetic and the inking, both inked by Liam Sharp, but I definitely feel like this is more of Liam Sharp's naturalistic style. If, we look at modern stuff where he's working on Conan, and I've talked about his art being very much more illustrative, maybe more in the vein of, heavy metal artists and Barry Windsor Smith on Conan. He's definitely the perfect artist for Conan, that's for sure. No one can dispute that. And I'm definitely getting more of those vibes here in the subject matter too, and the inking style. It's almost like the writer, for issue 2 actually asked him, like, what's the kind of stuff you want to draw, and kind of gave him a storyline based on that, because it's kind of weird. I'll give you the conceit right away, where all of a sudden we're in some, barbaric kind of techno wizardry magic-y world that we weren't in at all last issue. We were just in modern times with the Fantastic Four and stuff. So I was a little bit jarring when I started reading the issue. Basically, that time jump they did at the end of last issue, they ended up randomly somewhere else, some other period, right? And it's a period where I gotta say, this is a very cool issue. It reminded me a lot of He-Man, and the tropes from there, where science and magic are kind of merged, and a lot of elements here reminded me of that. So I thought that was really fun and cool. This is really much more of a fantasy-based comic than it was last issue, at least for here. And I believe next issue we'll be moving around time once again. So who knows what kind of storyline we're going to get there. I always love reading copy on the cover. On the run in the far future, Death's Head and Tuck are partners in crime. I also thought it was interesting that once again we get 2 covers, and this one again, very good indication here of Liam Sharp's more naturalistic style. No Jim Lee really hatching to be found here. A slightly more kind of, like I said, old school approach to the inking and the texturing that I think works really well. And again, it really reminds me more of those barbarian kind of fantasy comics from the 70s and 80s. Swords, sorcery, and big guns. I think that's what should have been on the cover and not the back cover. Not quite sure. I mean, both are good images. I guess this one, once again, is just a little more identifiable real quick. Maybe a little posy, not so much action-packed, but what are you going to do? All right, let's have a look inside, guys. As far as the inking goes, you'll still see some flourishes in here that are, definitely Jim Lee inspired or Jim Lee-esque. But slowly but surely, as you move through the issue, even though the inking might be just a little bit more kind of mechanical and slick from Andy Lanning in the interior pages versus how Liam Sharp is inking himself on the covers, it'll definitely kind of move into that fantasy kind of look a little bit more as the issue progresses. Story Dan Abnett, Liam Sharp on pencils. We already mentioned Andy Lanning letters. Perry Godbold. I always want to say Godbod. And colors Helen Stone. So they just throw us right into the thick of things here, where Death's Head is being attacked by some sort of barbarians riding dinosaurs. So again, there's that kind of He-Man aspect, or even more specifically, other cartoons from that period, the Dino Riders, right? If anyone remembers that, that's another, I guess, slightly obscure kind of cartoon and toy line from the 80s. Anytime you talk about a toy line in the 80s, there's probably a cartoon. Anytime you talk about cartoon, there's probably a toy line, right? So they're kind of in the 80s, those things are kind of just always connected. So right away, already with the layout, I feel we're getting, again, more of a Liam Sharp type of layout than anything, resembling what Wildstorm or the West Coast guys would do. And again, something that fits a little bit more within the Barry Windsor Smith Conan school of layouts. So, of course, Death's Head crew are going to be victorious. They're going to take the spoils of war here. Just a great detailed image of, some wreckage, them catching the dinosaurs here in the background, the creatures, and I guess, claiming them as their own. I love this little bit of hatching to suggest the trees in the background and some extra layering to what we can actually see in the foreground. And even down here, that little bit of decorative kind of plant life really works well, and all hallmarks of stuff that we're going to see all throughout Liam Sharp's career. And again, just the story here completely fits for his type of art. And again, I'm assuming where his interests lie and what he likes to draw. Kind of get a Robin Hood Merryman kind of feel with these guys here, right? It's kind of has the same vibe. This girl, you know, some sort of Red Sonja kind of analog, I guess, is basically thrown in for a little bit of TNA feel, but also to give that Conan Red Sonja vibe, and she's basically just joining his crew. Back to the past or the present or the future, whatever, the Death's Head timeline, I guess, is what we'll go with. Remember, this comic published in 1992, so 2020 definitely in the future, right? So we'll say the future. And the old Death's Head body, the Death's Head does not reside in anymore, right? He resides in the Minion body, so really he is Death's Head. Last issue, this gentleman showed up and kind of claimed it as own, is asking this guy's help in, you know, bringing his dastardly plan to fruition, which we're going to see the result of in a little later on in this book. Again, some great kind of decorative elements from Liam Sharp. The statues here, just a flying fish, I guess, just all around. Again, adding to that surrealist kind of fantasy land thing. They're actually, I think they're tied up or something. Am I wrong on that? They're like flying fishes on a leash. Interesting concept. Taking inspiration from all sorts of old mythology, right? You get a bit of Roman and Greek stuff kind of mixed in there. At least that's what it feels like. And here you can see the inking again, still somewhat reminiscent of that West Coast kind of vibe, but slowly but surely we're getting less and less of that. Like on these pages already, I feel like we're moving more to that old school Conan illustrative style. Lots of, you know, not 90s style hatching. Great female form here. I like, again, the subtle hatching on to create the volumes on her body. Really work well here. So this is where we learn basically a little bit about Death's Head, if we didn't know before, and where he explains how they got to this timeline. So that's how I knew, by reading the damn thing. Of course, attacked once again. These guys, I don't know where the inspiration from that hairdo comes from. Maybe Predator or something. It's a little odd the way the hair's jutting out that way. Kind of a weird choice, but what are you going to do? So attacked once again, and that's basically what this issue here is. Just a marauding group versus another marauding horde, and you know, fighting for the spoils of war, I guess. But this, it surprised me how much this issue is so much different from the last. Again, the subject matter, the type of creatures that we see, the world that we're in, just fully, like, I really enjoyed it because of that He-Man vibe. I'm a huge He-Man fan. And, you know, these weird animal creatures that you can ride around, and bits of sword and sorcery, but also bits of technology. Just great. Every once in a while we get, you know, very beautiful art, but then we get kind of I feel like a shot where, you know, he really didn't spend a lot of time on. It was just trying to get through it, I guess. Oh, Namor by Jay Lee. Go check it out. I reviewed all of his issues. Pretty cool looking action. Of course, Minion being a cyborg, he can manifest, you know, weapons from his hand. So going the traditional route with the blades here. Color-wise, again, I talked about this last issue. They're a little bit murky, not a lot of contrast sometimes. The only real contrast is when there's like a fully kind of white background. So, you know, I wish the colors were a little bit better. I don't know what it is. There's kind of I've talked about a very dense kind of color application on the paper at this point in the printing process, and I don't know if that helps or hinders the work, unless it's the actual color choice that's giving it this low contrast kind of vibe, at least most pages. Again, here, you know, you've got an open border, corners cut off by the leg and stuff, and you've got full bleed and characters overlapping, so that's fun, very 90s. But you get this just a little bit of leaves at the top, kind of a decorative element that he throws in there. Find it weird that he had the whole line there, that he wouldn't just, you know, take out the areas where the leaves aren't and make it, but, you know, deadline wise, I guess this still works, and you can, you know, move on through. No one's really going to notice that except for me. But this is, I'm pointing it out because it's definitely something Liam Sharp is going to use a lot and still does today. Again, when I saw this shot here, that's really where I kind of picked up as I was reading the book that this is, you know, so in tune with what I love about He-Man. Looks really cool there. And also, you know, I got to say, Golden Axe, right? You would get it onto creatures similar to that in the old video game. I literally just played it last night, watched a video where they mentioned the old Golden Axe video game, arcade game, because the new He-Man game that's coming out is kind of based on that gameplay. So I went, oh yeah, I forgot that on the internet we can just go play old school games really easily, right? There's like retro game sites that you can just upload real quick and start playing. So I played Golden Axe a bit, and this guy, like I said, definitely a He-Man Golden Axe kind of character. And again, not much else really to say about this issue. We got another time warp here, time jump, whatever they call it. There's always a different name for it in these different forms of media. But yeah, the going through the time stream and leaving this timeline. And we're back to the B story with our villain. And what we've realized is his dastardly plan was basically to merge with the Death's Head body. And that's kind of what's going on here, making a monstrosity look even more monstrous. And another example, maybe because we're in the year 2020 again, but the hatching definitely being more reminiscent of that Jim Lee style here than it was throughout the rest of the issue. But then you're left with this very cool kind of graphic image. In a way, it kind of reminds me a lot of some of the stuff we saw with Jay Lee on Namor, funny enough, from the ad in this book, and his kind of design sense. There's a villain and some candles in one of those issues of Namor. You'd have to go look it up. It's in one of those issues. I'm not 100% sure, but I reviewed them all. That's very similar to this and this kind of layout and this kind of vibe and smoke and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know if these guys were looking at each other, but this is a pretty cool shot of this merging of Death's Head and the villain. And our heroes return from the timeline, only to realize that, you know, the lab's been trashed, everyone's dead. And things are not as they're supposed to be. And next issue we'll find out exactly what happened. Here's a little bit of exposition about Death's Head right in his body. We're not going to obviously go through that. And I did, again, just an interesting issue overall for Liam Sharp art. When I saw this, I was like, wow, that is awesome. And I was looking at it, it's like almost like I felt like there's a bit of Dale Keown in the Black Knight's face here, but I'm like, who is this artist, right? And then I look down here and it says Liam. So I'm like, wow, this guy can like really, really draw in ink. This is almost reminiscent or just as good and detailed as his modern stuff. So, you know, definitely being asked to change his style a little bit and that early Death's Head stuff for the Jim Lee look. Because, I mean, this is how Liam Sharp should be drawing. What a great image. Definitely a lot of Predator influence on this guy's face here for sure. But what a beautiful image showing you that even back then, like, he was already a top-notch, solid artist. And again, much more in tune with that fantasy vibe, that heavy metal kind of look. And why would you ever ask anyone to change his style when this is what he's doing? So hopefully that was a conscious decision. Then I'll shut up and not complain about it. But I feel like it was imposed on him because this, again, definitely feels more like his naturalistic style and what we saw on the cover and back cover of this issue, which we're going to look at again real quick here, right? Again, definitely the sword, sorcery, and big guns vibe here. All right, guys, there you go. That is my review of Death's Head 2, issue number 3 of the miniseries. If you're still watching and you are enjoying the videos, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you. Really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books and graphic novels, just like we are. So everyone, again, thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.